Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicky, and I am so excited to talk to my friend Karim Morato today. We've had Karim on the podcast several times, but her world has gotten really big and busy since we last talked. And for those of you guys who are watching on the video, you see the icon for her new podcast. Well, it's not quite new anymore. And it is one of my absolute favorite podcasts. It's called Becoming Bilingual. And like so friendly and
Oh,
encouraging and helpful. And even if you're not learning Spanish, she just has the most interesting people on it. So I'm not learning Spanish right now, but I just like to listen to her visitors on the podcast. So anyway, Kareem, would you tell us a little bit about your homeschooling journey? Like, how did you get started homeschooling? And then how did all of these things come about, like your
oh,
school and the podcast?
oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Vicky. But first, I want to say thank you for making me part of your family,
Mm,
familia. You
familia.
guys call us cousins, primas.
Yes, yes, we are. We are
Yes,
cousins.
and believe me, I do feel like I am part of your family.
Mm,
And thank you so much for what you guys do with helping homeschool parents with
mhm.
resources. That is so important. So thank you for the work that you guys do. So about how I started homeschooling, that was very interesting because I am originally from Guatemala. If the For the ones that don't know me, and my husband is from Bolivia, and he came up to me with a crazy idea before we had kids. We got married, and I was so excited and, dreaming when we have kids and we're going to send them to private schools. I don't even know how, but I was just dreaming about how we were going to educate our kids. And then he's like, why are we not homeschooling? And I was like, what is that? I thought it was a cult. It's like, there is no way that's normal, especially here in the United States. So, to make the story short, I started visiting my homeschool conference, a state conference, which you should go if you have never been to one. You
Yeah,
need to make that trip to your
yes.
homeschool conference in your state. And my eyes were open. I could not believe, first of all, I am a curriculum crazy person. So I could not believe so much curriculum was before my eyes.
Yes.
And what most impacted me was the dynamic between finding curriculum and educational resources and the parents and the children together.
Mhm.
I never saw that. I being a public school teacher, I was there for 16 years, and then I transitioned to online teaching. But for me, seeing that perfect triangle, right, between parents, children, and experts working together to make the best education for the children was exciting. So I was sold by the idea, and I was like, yes, we're doing it. We didn't know how. I was very insecure. English is my second language, as you can hear. I have an accent, and I was very afraid to destroy my kids' future.
Mm.
And also, nobody in my community was homeschooling at that time. So for many years, I was this strange, crazy mom with, with my
You were
husband,
a
actually.
pioneer.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And, to the point where my husband told me, okay, and actually, he didn't tell me that, but he basically told me we don't need to explain what we do. But then I hear somebody saying, you don't need to explain to people what you do. You explain things to children, to adults, you tell.
Mm. Mm. That's awesome. Yeah. So how many kids have you homeschooled in your family?
I
Yeah.
have three, two are
Mm.
already in college, and one is graduating in May. I am so
Oh my
excited.
goodness.
She's an
Yes.
industrial engineer with a minor in biomedical, and I cannot believe she is graduating. We are so excited. We are ready to travel and celebrate her we're gonna be there in Pittsburgh for 4 or 5 days. I don't know how
Oh,
long,
wow.
but we are excited. And our second one is studying business, and he is also in college, and he is finishing his third year. and my last one is 15, and she's going to be a rising 10th grader. Um,
Mm.
so we don't do things based on her grade.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
we do
right.
things
No,
based on what she can do. But
yeah.
we are almost seeing the end.
Uh, what differences in interests? So your oldest is more of a STEM person, so she's got the
Yes,
sciences
he's
and
the
the
STEM,
biomedical.
and my second one, he's the salesperson. He can
Mhm,
sell you anything,
mhm,
and that's I think that's what he's gonna end up doing, selling. He's doing business and in sales and technology. And my last one is my I don't even know exactly because she loves everything. She's good at a lot of things,
mhm,
but she's every time you ask her what she wants to do, she tells you, I need to think, let me think more. But she's a strong writer, a strong reader, so
mhm.
we are trusting God that he will lead us to the answer as she moves on.
One of the things that I enjoyed when I spent almost 20 years advising high schoolers one-on-one with our homeschool community, where's those kids who love everything. They just love life and they love learning things and they have lots of talents, is helping them figure out one or two just to work on at a career level. And so that's a yeah, it's a discovery process.
And
Yeah.
you had to, as a parents, and I know we're gonna talk more about this. As a parents, we need to really listen more, and say less,
Mhm.
especially with teenagers. One of the things she say, and I still thinking about this. She say, "I know one thing that I want," and I ask her, "What is it? Just tell me." And she's like, "I want freedom." So that was a very insightful answer she gave me.
Mm.
And I is still trying to figure out what does that mean, and she needs
Yeah,
to find out also and discover
yeah,
what freedoms means to
yeah.
her.
Yeah, well, and that's what she's discovering her values, and if you can align talents and values,
Yes.
then you've got a good career choice or good next step anyway.
Yes.
So, all right, so that's a good segue into what I wanted to talk about today is our high schoolers need, world language credits, but also we live in a more and more bilingual world, and it just adds richness. I've told you about my grandson who has got an English speaking dad and a
Mm,
Korean speaking mom.
what a
And that
blessing.
that little guy, he's almost 5 now and he is fully bilingual. And so
Oh,
when we
wow.
when we talk, so they live in Seoul. So when I'm talking to them over the little video chat, he just flips back and forth between who he's talking to and which language he's using. And so
Wow.
his world is bigger and richer because of that. And that is a gift you are giving your family, but also the community because you have invested with the homeschool Spanish courses so long. And this podcast has just got me so inspired, and that's why I reached out to you. Is you had this clip where you were explaining why teens turn their cameras off, and that gift of listening, so that Spanish learning, becoming bilingual, there could be more less threatening and more fun. So
Yes.
can we start with that? Like, why do teens turn off the cameras?
Well, I think that I have I have spent half of my life teaching teenagers. Can you
Mhm,
believe that? That's
mhm,
a long time. Even
yeah,
before we use cameras to teach, I saw how many of my students, and this was in the classroom when I was in public school, they face anxiety and pressures,
yes,
and that was, oh my goodness, a long time ago. I'm talking about 23 years ago.
mhm,
And I already had students that were dealing with anxiety. And I invite everybody to listen to my latest episode because I go deep dive into this.
mhm,
Because today, more than ever, our young people have to face pressure in a different way, and
yeah,
it's manifesting a lot with anxiety.
mhm,
So, as a teacher, and also as a mom, I have made it one of my missions to understand better pressure and anxiety,
mhm,
because affects learning, Vicky.
yes,
The feeling that you
yes,
are in attack mode, that
yes,
somebody's coming to get you.
yes,
it really impacts your learning.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about it because I see now in online learning, teens rather have their cameras off. They don't want to be seen. And
Yeah.
of course, as a teacher, it's like, turn your camera
Yes,
on.
I
I
wanna see your
want to
face.
see you. It's almost like as a parent, when your teen has the door closed, it's like, open that door. I want to
Mm,
see what you're doing. So,
mhm,
you want that dynamic. So I could either be the teacher that gets mad, gets frustrated, or I could ask a deeper question. What's
mhm,
going on behind the camera?
mm,
And the reality is that speaking Spanish, it's a very stressful process for the majority of the people. Can you
mhm,
imagine somebody speaking to you in Korean, and you maybe a few words, and you're trying to remember and pronounce it. And so I decided, I'm going to start addressing this head on with my students. So I even made some changes for my live courses. I used to give live classes, and I love teaching live classes, but
mhm.
online learning requires other dynamics, a lot
Yeah,
of time management. Our teens are more busy than ever. So the
yeah,
pressures are not just coming from learning Spanish, but then when you add up everything that they need to do, all the expectations that they think they need to fulfill, it really is like a bomb.
yes, yes,
so
yes.
one of the things that I have as a teacher is, of course, I want the learning to happen. I want teenagers to discover what the joy or learning to speak Spanish and learning about the culture. But let's be realistic. What tools, what environment do we need to offer them so they can flourish and they can focus on the learning and moving forward to fulfilling that requirement that they need to fulfill, not just for diploma, but many of them want to go to a college where they need to do more than 2 years. They need to do 3 or 4 years. So,
Yes,
so all of that has made me make some changes, even in my personal life, with my children. I want them to talk to me
mhm,
about what's going on, what is in their head, what is they're putting pressure. And of course, I want my students and my own children to experience pressures, because let me tell you, learning Spanish is not going to be the most difficult thing they're going to do in life. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So for
Yes.
me, is let's take this opportunity where they are experiencing some level of pressure, which is good because pressure
Mhm,
will make you do more, right?
mhm,
And make you stronger. But
right.
let's not be this type of pressure that will break our student. It will break the spirit. It will make them be, I quit. I hate Spanish.
Mhm.
Of course, can you imagine if they say, I hate Senora Morato?
That wouldn't happen.
so it's we are dealing with a very different generation. So I
Mhm,
will know, I refuse to criticize the young people.
mhm,
I rather use my time and energy to understand them and help them
mhm,
become better. And by having this online program, it has given me the chance to help so many parents find solutions so their children can learn Spanish. I have an elementary program, but also
mhm,
help the children learn Spanish better. So that's my mission. Help the parents uh,
mhm,
get 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 that second language integrated in their homeschool journey, and help the parents don't feel my kids cannot learn because I don't know the language.
yeah,
The worst thing that we can feel as a parents is we are the limitations of our children. So I always say we are not the limitations. We see the
mm,
potential, and we focus on their potential, not our limitations. So I am committed to helping parents, and also I am committed to helping students, because at the end of the day, they are going to be the ones moving forward.
yeah. Well, that's what I love about the work you do in your school and in your podcast is you are helping people kind of become like, so parents, we are not limited. We do this as homeschool parents with math and English and social studies. We teach things we don't know all the time, and we find the resources to do that. But for some reason, for a lot of us, the world language part is harder because our education was not sparkling with that. And for some reason, that tends to be like parents kind of shut down. And what I've seen you do with workshops you'll do online for parents, and with the podcast especially, I love by becoming bilingual podcast. I just is my favorite podcast right now. Um,
Oh, thank you so
yeah,
much.
yeah, it just yeah. And anyway, is helping parents get over their anxiety about bilingual education, like giving our kids a chance to live in a different world. And also that relational component you have with the teens, you listen, and they then, start finding out they can work through some pressure,
Yes.
but the anxiety doesn't have to be so big that it shuts them down and keeps them from learning in a way that makes their world better. And so that's,
Mm.
yeah, just
And
love what
one of the things that I discover is that anxiety will remain there. And I think that, I personally have to navigate that with one of our kids in accepting that anxiety will be there, but that we can help our kids. And sometimes we're going to have to hire a professional to give them
you.
tools to know
Mhm,
how to navigate that. I know, Vicky, you are a counselor.
mhm,
So you do a wonderful job also
mhm,
counseling. Um that it's so important, and I would say, I don't, and I mentioned that in my episode, is that I am an immigrant, so I came from Guatemala. I had to face a lot of things. So I don't know if this is something that, and also I don't think a lot of the Latino culture acknowledge that a lot of the emotional part of the, like anxiety, depression.
mhm,
That's something that my husband and I had to learn,
mm,
because we couldn't understand it. It was not in our language. It was not in our mindset. And
yeah,
through our kids and own experiences, we have learned to accept it, to acknowledge it. At
yeah.
least acknowledge it. It's like, oh wow, this is a real thing. And we need to deal with that. And we need to include mental health in everything that we do.
You made my whole day, girl. That's awesome.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. And, if we wanna give our kids a life skill, that is a life skill that will be one of the most important things that they can carry. So, all right, dramatic shift. So one of the things I have been excited about is watching your adventures with a first homeschool conference in Puerto Rico. And so could you tell a little bit about that adventure? Because, we are just making the world a better place together, all of us homeschoolers.
yes.
And bringing a conference there was a really, really cool thing. So could you tell a little bit about that?
Yes. So actually, it looked like a conference, but it was not a conference because there were
No?
so many people. Actually, it was an explorative trip that I took with HSLDA. And
Yeah.
so, for some of you that don't know, one of my other hats is I am HSLDA Hispanic coordinator
Mhm.
and bilingual educational specialist. So, so we decided to do. We partner with other leaders that you may know, with Andrew Pudewa from IEW, Sam Tyler
Yeah.
from BAU, and also Suzanne Nunn from FBA. She's the
Mhm.
president of the Florida Homeschool State
Mm.
Organization.
Mhm.
And I connected with Puerto Rican leaders for many months and had a lot of discussions about us going to the island. Puerto Rico is part of United States,
Right.
and we wanted to do an explorative trip to meet the culture where they are, meet the parents,
Mhm.
meet the leaders, and that converted into a family gathering in a park. And on that
Mm.
Thursday, there were like about 500 people.
That's where I got the idea it was an actual conference because the pictures I saw so many people there.
Yes. So, but it was like a conference, like a mini conference, like I don't know what it was, Vicky, but it was amazing. We had panel discussions, and I
Mm,
met so many beautiful families, and it was so beautiful to see how people that are part of the movement,
mhm,
homeschooling, but they express themselves in very different ways. So
yeah,
this is the part where it
yeah,
just reminded us, just like you, mom and dad, you're doing your thing in your family, you
mhm,
have your own expression of homeschooling. And then
mm,
you go to Puerto Rico. I
mm,
also had the opportunity to go to Bolivia. When I went to Bolivia, there was a conference. It was a completely different way of expressing. They are part of the movement. They are homeschooling, but they have a different reality that we have.
yeah, yeah,
And that was our attitude when we went to Puerto Rico. It's like we
mm,
want to listen, we want to learn, and oh boy, do we learn so much. And still like
yeah,
and all about what everything that we experience. And we also had the second day on Friday, we had a leadership gathering too. So
mm,
we met up with like around 32 leaders, and it was amazing to discuss where the movement is in Puerto Rico. What are the needs?
yeah,
What Puerto Ricans family need? What kind of support they need? That's the job that I do. And it was an amazing beautiful experience because when we left it was snowing where I live, and then when we arrived there it was 85 degrees.
oh my
And
goodness.
being surrounded by an ocean, I did
Mm,
not wanna return. Let me tell you something. And it was funny because my husband went with me, and my husband will get up and like 6 o'clock in the morning, go to the beach, and he's like, the people look at him like he was crazy because for it was 70, 80 degrees,
mm.
and for them that's winter.
Ah. Oh, that's so fabulous. And this is the thing I appreciate is when we have opportunities to be with homeschoolers in different locations, different parts of the country or different areas of the United States, like Puerto Rico, or all over the world, like when y'all went to Bolivia, like you're learning about all the different lives that other homeschoolers have. That comes back to the rest of us, and it makes our world a bigger place.
And
And,
thank you, and
yeah,
thank you, Vicky, for caring,
yeah,
because you are one of those leaders that cares what's going on
yeah,
outside your own environment. You
yeah,
always want to know. You are a very curious leader. So I so appreciate that about you
yeah,
for making the space for us to have these conversations.
yeah. Yeah, I really believe we are all the family of Christ, and we want to all learn about each other and see what God is doing in all of our lives, so
And I want to mention one thing. I mean, Andrew, Tyler, and Suzanne, and also we went. I forgot to say, Scott, the lawyer from Puerto
oh,
Rico,
right,
from
of course.
SDA, he was there. But you know what? I had the opportunity. I knew Andrew and Scott and San and Suzanne, but when I was there, they were there as parents first,
Mm,
not as their professional title.
right.
And the way they talk to the parents, the way they encourage the parents, and
Mm,
the way they acknowledge, Andrew said to the families,
mhm,
you have something that I have never seen, at least where we are.
mm.
That when we were there, they had a homeschool son. So when we were going to start the gathering, they started doing all the with the congas and the
Oh, really?
tambourines and the clapping, and everybody was singing and dancing their homeschool anthem, and the families were there. And Andrew would say, you just don't homeschool, you just don't um have family, you are happy people,
Yes,
and the way
yes,
you express
yes.
what you do is beautiful. So that I'm telling you, and still and all about what happened. And we want Puerto Rico to launch their own conferences and their
Mhm.
own, not just
Yeah,
for them to see as the United States and to us and say, oh, you know, we
Right.
want your resources, but and we want to come and get the resources that you have, because there are so much need of Spanish curriculum and English curriculum, but
Yeah.
also for us to say, you know what, there are so many resources that we also can bring to the island, and that's what we
Mm,
want to.
mm. Yeah, that's I just love that. So one of the ways that just to wrap these up is we help our teens and our children learn Spanish or any language partly by recognizing the anxiety and listening to our teens and our kids and helping manage the anxiety and know where it's helping us to grow and get
Yes.
stronger
Yes.
and where it overwhelms us. And so when we can take that out, they have more space for language being fun, and the more fun they have, the better they're going to learn. So with that in mind, tell about your courses, because your courses have actually, speakers who speak Spanish, and so teens and children are learning that way. So
Yes.
tell a little bit about your courses and the podcast.
So one of the things, and I'm gonna announce it here because I think that your platform is worth of me announcing this, and I'm so
Yay!
excited. I have a secret. I'm creating a parent course to help, and this is gonna be a free resource that I'm creating for them to help the parent that want to say, okay, I want to start the Spanish learning at home. Where do I start? So I am creating a step by step course for parents, and I will share the link once I have it ready. I am in the middle of recording the lessons, but one of the things that I am very strong about is methodology. You know, as teachers, we love finding ways for students to learn better, and sometimes either for primary ages or middle school and high school ages, what the missing piece is a curriculum that our kids can follow with methodology, especially if you parents don't know the language. I don't expect you to be teachers. You know,
Mhm.
you want something that you can go and say to your kid, all right, we're gonna learn, and then your kids are gonna tell you and gonna look at you. It's like, okay, mom, and how?
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure now that to have a team of professionals from Mexico. I'm so excited that has not just helping me improve my lessons, but also my methodology. I want you to see curriculum as a vehicle, you know, and the vehicles, we have so many different vehicles to get to a one place, right? The destination, we know the destination, but do you want to get there by a bike, by a motorcycle, by an airplane, or by a car, by a minivan, an RV? So there are so many
Mhm.
options, right? And that is something that I have developed for the last since 2014. I started developing the curriculum, improving the curriculum, doing updates. So parents can have the vehicle, but students can have the tools and the
Mhm.
methodology to learn. So I invite parents to stop by my website. I will offer my website, homeschoolspanishcurriculum.com, so you can explore the Spanish 1, 2, and 3. I just launched my Spanish 3 this year because parents were
Oh,
like, we need a Spanish 3, and I
yes.
wasn't sure like if I wanted to do, but
Yeah.
I we are almost about to finish the Spanish 3 course, and I offer independent and self-paced
Mhm.
options because some students don't want the pressure of deadlines. But
Yeah.
also, I offer the course with live support where we do all the grading, where we meet your student, answer the questions, and help your student get the learning done.
Yeah.
And then I have the primary curriculum where that's my personal project with my own daughter that refused to speak Spanish because she chose French. Can you imagine that? And I say, this is not going to happen. We are going to learn Spanish together. And I created this, you know, video speaking curriculum to include her in the lessons. And now I'm developing the second year. Now I can't use her because she used to be 5 when we started the curriculum. Can you imagine? And now she's 15 and she say, I am not going to be doing that.
Yeah, it's such a gift to the community. So we'll put links in the show notes, And when I share the video, I'll have it in the comment section
And
so
I
that
and I
people can
also want to
connect.
say that I created a demo because parents ask me, "Can
Yes.
I see the lessons?" And I don't know why I never thought about creating a demo. Free.
Yeah.
And finally, I told my team we need to create a demo so parents can see. And in this case, parents, I want if you sign up for the demo and experience what the learning looks like inside, make sure that your teenager also experience that because
Yes.
again,
Yes.
teenagers are going to be the ones executing the plan.
Yeah.
We make the decision, we create the decision with them, we create the environment, but guess what, the teenagers are the ones that need to complete the work.
Yeah, this is very true. So we'll have links to that then also in the notes. That'll be cool. And then the podcast is Becoming Bilingual with
Yes,
Karim Morato.
they are speaking Spanish, and like you
Yeah,
say, my goal is for me to share stories of how people became bilingual, and also experiences of them traveling around the world, visiting Hispanic countries. And
yeah,
some of the episodes are solo episodes where I share my insights as an expert. Some episodes are also testimonials from the students that I had. We talk about where they are. I have one episode where one of my students started in the elementary program, and now she's fully bilingual. Can you imagine? She
wonderful.
she had she went to do their Spanish work and tutors, but she had the foundation. We need to start somewhere, and now she's fully bilingual. So
Yeah.
the point of the podcast is, Vicky, you know me, and I get bored quickly. So my podcast is more than for me not to become bored. So it's going to have a different type of episodes and
Yeah.
angles that you never thought about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's one reason why I like it so much because every time it's a little different kind of flavor and always, always interesting. So we'll have links to everything there in the show notes. So, Kareem, thank you for being with us today. I am just always happy to see your face on the screen
Oh,
and
thank you.
to hear your voice. So,
And I
well,
can wait to see you in person and give you a hug.
we one of these days we have to do some in real life stuff. So, well, this has been the Homeschool High School podcast brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Thank you to Seth Tillman for editing, and we'll see everyone next week.
Hasta luego.